Hello, all you game-loving Vortas and humans out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
You know, it really makes me wonder if the Vorta get along with the Wadi.
This is why the Wadi are allowed to exist.
Maybe.
Because the Vortas just love games so much.
Yeah.
My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today, we're gonna recap and discuss and review Season 5, Episode 19 of Star Trek DS9, Ties of Blood and Water. Alternate title, My Two Dads.
Yeah.
How can a tie be made out of blood or water? I don't know. Just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode of the series, but proceed at your own risk, and all other spoilers for movies, books, and TV are likely to happen.
Oh yeah, gonna spoil all sorts of books and things.
Mm-hmm. I watched that Fallout show. I can spoil that.
I have not watched that yet, so
Okay.
You should not do that thing.
Okay, I will not spoil it for you, but I don't respect the listeners. Wait.
Don't respect the listeners. Just put that out there.
I love the listeners. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Anyway, Ties of Blood and Water originally aired April 14th, 1997. It was written by Robert Hewitt Wolfe, solo.
Oh my goodness.
Story by Edmund Newton, and I put Robbing L. Slocum. That can't be right.
That's a great name. What are you talking about?
Is that really his name?
Okay, hold on. I gotta scroll back up to the top of the article. Robin
L. Slocum. I'm sorry,
Yep.
Mr. or Ms. Slocum.
Well, we're gonna find out right now. Robin L. Slocum, production associate, also served as Ira Stephen Bear's assistant. Her husband was Edmund Newton, and they pitched the story for the 5th season episode Ties of Blood and Water. Appeared in the background of a scene in What You Leave Behind, the series finale.
Oh.
So there's a picture of most of her face.
We'll have to remember. We 100% will remember to look for that.
Oh yeah, totally.
When we get to that episode. So okay, husband and wife story idea pitching team. All right.
Yeah, that's the only information about them in here. And let's check their IMDb's.
It's more than we have sometimes.
Edmund Newton has this one episode of Deep Space Nine on his IMDb. Oh, but Robin Slocum has, production associate on 96 episodes of Deep Space Nine, but also production assistant on something called Violated from 1984.
Oh.
A movie starring J.C. Quinn, John Hurd, and Daniel Balin. I've only heard of one of those people.
Which one is John Hurd?
John Hurd is like, I think he's in a bunch of stuff. He's one of those people you see in lots of stuff, but I'm trying to think what I remember him for most is probably that he's the dad in Home Alone.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can totally picture him. And the episode was directed by Avery Brooks.
Yeah. That's a guy.
He's been directing before.
Yeah, and people usually have some positive things to say about his direction. There's one quote from this one which struck me very strangely in here, but it's got Lawrence Pressman, who plays Gamor, is quoted in here that Avery Brooks' direction of the episode he was very impressed. He said, Avery is a man who keeps to himself, not somebody who chats easily, but as a director, he was right there and extraordinarily helpful. Somebody said to me, Avery talks like jazz. It's true, he does. What's more, it's brilliant jazz. Wonderful stuff. He gives you images, and he does it through eye contact with you, so you get the feeling of what he wants. He gave me a lot of courage. It would be so easy to go the wrong way with the character. He pushed me constantly in other directions, then pushed me even further in that direction. You can't ask for more than that. So, that sounds bizarre to me, where it's like, yeah, this guy doesn't talk that much, he doesn't chat, but then he eye contacts with you, and you know exactly what he wants.
I feel like he just keeps telling people, "Is there a weirder way you can do that?" I felt that in his past episodes, and I felt it a little bit in this episode too.
Yeah, okay, I can see it.
There's just there's the one scene where it's like Kira goes to Gamora's bedside, but then she has this weird smile on her face as she like runs her fingers through his hair. I'm like,
be creepier, Kira.
That was weird.
Okay, can do.
And Sirach Lofton is not in this episode.
Nope, does not appear. But the real question is, does Morn?
I didn't see him. Was he in the bar when Wayun and Dukat were there?
Hold on, let's see. No, I don't believe he's... Wait, it says uncredited co-stars. There's Morn's listed in there, so maybe he does.
We need a Wayun and Morn team up.
Man, that would be a thing. Wayun just loves to talk, and so does Morn, supposedly.
I need to put that on our list of spec episode ideas that we can send in for when they reboot the show.
Yeah.
So diving into our recap for this lighthearted episode. As a transport docks with Deep Space Nine in a weirdly familiar looking shot, Kira waits excitedly by the airlock with Dax and Worf, telling them how she wants her visitor treated like a visiting head of state. And that visitor is Takeni Gamor. The guy who was Kira's...
Hey, we know that guy.
Yeah, the guy who was Kira's fake dad that one time when she got kidnapped and turned into a Cardassian.
Yep.
As he was the head of the dissident movement, his political career is not so great since the Dominion took over. And Kira has grand plans to prop him up as the exiled head of the Cardassian opposition. Gamora arrives and he and Kira are happy to see each other, but he's a little tired. And then also Dax points out how far Kira's character has come in the last 5 seasons.
I mean, yeah, she's not wrong. Like, when she says that, you think back to, like, series premiere Kira, and it's like, yeah, she just hated everyone and everything back then.
I mean, she still occasionally threatens to punch a hole in someone's face or something.
Yeah, especially, like Quark or...
Yeah. And I don't think Worf and Dax are in the entire rest of the episode. So I think they just got this one scene to get paid.
You may be right. I don't recall them popping back up. I do like... Worf's like, wait, her dad? What? He's got a good one.
I thought it was weird that just those 2 people showed up. Like, no Cisco, no Odo.
Yeah, it's like, is the captain just too busy to welcome who Kira clearly thinks is, like, the most important dude ever?
Yeah. Kira shows Gamor to his room and shows him all the amenities, but he seems a little down. She informs him that there's still no word on the real Ilyana Gamor, his real daughter, who she was kidnapped and surgically altered to look like.
Yep.
But the search continues. Takeni, however, has made peace with the hard truth that she's probably dead. Kira starts outlining her ambitious plans for Gamora's government in exile, propaganda campaigns, mobilizing underground networks of dissident allies on Cardassia. But Gamora's like, yeah, none of that is going to happen. For you see, I have Yarim Fell syndrome, which means I'm dying, in case you didn't pick up from context and my general attitude ever since I got to the station.
I have the death.
Yes. Usually anything that ends with syndrome is not good.
Yeah. What about the villain from The Incredibles?
Well, he's definitely not good.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair.
So Dr. Bashir does an examination of Gamor and is like, oh, yep, there's a whole lot of Yarim Fell in there. And you see all these like white dots of, I guess, Yarim Fell all over the scan of his body. How long do I have, says Gamor, making me wonder if he's actually seen a doctor yet.
Right? Yeah.
Or if he just diagnosed himself.
He's going on WebMD of the future. And it's like, yep, clearly I have this super fatal disease.
It's like slightly itchy nose. You have the fatal Yarim Fell. So Bashir suggests some potential treatments, but his tone of voice is not optimistic.
Nope.
Up in his office, Sisko's about to do a captain's log, but we'll never hear it because he's interrupted by a call from Gul Dukat, who is keeping the title of Gul ever since he got put in charge of the Cardassian puppet government.
It just, it sounds so much more hands-on.
Yeah. It's always a good sign when your leaders choose to insist on keeping their military titles.
And then he has to get in that little dig about Sisko being called the emissary.
Yeah, he's like, yes, way better than president or emissary. Sisko suggests Dominion Puppet would be a more appropriate title. But Dukat is like, oh no, we have unparalleled autonomy under the Dominion.
So
unless you try to draw that parallel with actually free planets.
Yeah, I was like, so as opposed to when you were your own independent thing,
right.
this autonomy is even better than that autonomy.
Yeah, we didn't have any autonomy back then. Now we have autonomy. Anyway, can we have Gamora back? He has a lot to answer for. Sisko basically says no, because that's stupid.
He's like, well, I mean, we could do that, or you could go screw yourself.
We don't recognize that your government exists, and Cardassia has never signed an extradition treaty with either Bajor or the Federation, so that's just going to be a bunch of no.
I mean, I feel like they recognize the Dominion, and so their government kind of is the Dominion now, so I don't know how you can be like, well, we don't recognize that. Like, the Dominion exists, my dude. You can't really... I mean, you also don't have treaties with the Dominion, so it still applies, but...
Right, well, I mean, I'm sure it's like, Ukraine, like, Crimea. It's like, we recognize that you are occupying that, but...
Yeah, okay.
We do not recognize that that belongs to you, or that that government you've installed there is legitimate.
That's fair.
So anyway, Gamora admires baby Kirayoshi, the closest thing he has to a grandchild. By 2 degrees of closest thing.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty far off.
Yeah.
But apparently, according to Robert Hewitt Wolf, this is the most important scene in the episode. Oh. He says, this is Kira's family. The father that's not her father, the baby that's not her baby. Like, that's her family.
Huh. That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought of that. And her boyfriend, who
will never appear
again. is never around. So yeah, he wonders if Kira might want to have one of her own, maybe with that Shakar guy. You know about me and Shakar, says Kira. You mean the head of the Bajoran government? Yeah, your name does come up in Space People magazine now and then.
Well, it's just like, yes, the Cardassian government is aware of, like, the head of the Bajoran government and what he does.
Right.
Also, I like he has to point out to her, after she kind of throws a fit about, like, what, are you having somebody follow me? Like, she gets upset for a whole half a second. And then he's like, well, look, you're kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, people talk about you.
Yeah, as I think we've pointed out before, Kira is pretty much an important, like, public figure in her own right.
Yeah. Also, apparently her feud with Kai Wynn is already the stuff of legends.
So yeah, Gamora reveals that the true purpose of his visit is to carry out the Cardassian tradition of Shri Tal, the telling of your secrets to your family to use against your enemies. Which is
this tradition.
A very Cardassian sounding tradition.
It is, but I think we should adopt this. I think it could go well.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely plan to tell all my secrets about my enemies on my deathbed, so...
I mean, yeah, if my enemies outlive me, then somebody needs to get them comeuppance.
Yeah, what's-his-face didn't have to do it, because all his enemies were dead.
Yeah.
Garrick's dad guy.
Oh, Nabrantane, yeah.
Yeah, Nabrantane. But Garrick assured him that all his enemies were already dead, so there was no need to tell him any secrets.
Right.
So, he wants to tell his many, many secrets and knowledge of all the Cardassian government's buried skeletons to Kira. Kira is strangely conflicted about this amazing opportunity. Sisko's like, I think you should do it. But Kira is uneasy and doesn't understand why Gamora would choose her for this. But Sisko says, he wants to spend time with you during his final days.
Well, also, he's repeatedly said you're the closest thing he has to a daughter since he can't find his daughter. This shouldn't be confusing for you.
Also, he wants his enemies destroyed.
As you would.
You wouldn't, like, let a man go to his death, not, like, thinking nobody was out there who was going to destroy your enemies.
Yeah, not cool. But it is a funny exchange where Sisko's like, I mean, he's basically, I forget exactly how I phrase it. He's basically doing this thing. And Kira's like, no, that's exactly what he's doing. But I just don't know that I want to.
Yeah. Yeah, this sends Kira into a flashback of her young days in the Bajoran Resistance, when she had long hair. And Pharrell was there, too.
Yeah.
I saw the name William Lucking in the credits. I was like, wait, we've seen that guy before.
No.
Who is that? And I saw him and I was like, oh, there he is.
There he is. No Lupiza.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Kira sees her father get dragged into the Resistance base on a stretcher, clearly not in good condition. Sisko snaps her back to the present by asking, are you up for it? And she says she has no choice. She's all he's got, meaning Gamor. Gamor is now what I thought was the infirmary, but later they say is his quarters.
Yep.
Hooked up to a pain meds machine.
Yeah, he went downhill really fast.
Yeah. This Yarim Fell syndrome is no joke.
Yeah. Like, when he got off the ship, he was tired, but he seemed fine. And now he's like, I'm in so much pain, I can barely talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it cannot have been that long.
It's not good. But yeah, he asks Kira for water, but she spills it on him because straws don't seem to exist in Star Trek.
Well, because they're bad for the ducks or whatever.
Right, so. The space ducks.
Yeah, we got rid of them in the present time when we realized how bad they were for the environment, and they never made a comeback.
She's like, let me get you a straw, and she comes back with a paper straw, and he's like, no.
Not even worth it.
Just spill it all over me.
Yeah.
But yeah, she starts a tape recorder, and Gamora starts spilling about Dukat's most dangerous enemy, Gul Trapar? Whoever that guy is. I think I typoed it in my notes.
Trepan sounds like trepanning.
Yeah. Gul Trapan, the man who drills everybody's skull.
I mean, that would be a scary enemy.
It's true. That's true. It's like his sigil is like a skull with like a drill going into it.
Let's see. Here's I've looking up Trapar, Cardassian officer, commander of the Fourth Order, most powerful enemy. Okay, yeah. He's totally gonna come back and be a major character going forward.
We are setting up this amazing new character, Gul Trapar.
Oh wait, let's go to Memory Beta. Maybe he gets like some serious play.
There's a whole series of books about Gul Trapar.
Oh, apparently he does show up a few times in other stuff. Let's see. Trapar would attend a party at the State Museum of Natural History and trade barbs with Skrain Dukat. Oh yeah, Skrain is Dukat's name. I don't know that we ever actually hear.
Oh, I never knew that.
Once outranked Dukat, later leads... Okay, it's from a video game, but that's kind of a spoiler. So yeah, it sounds like he gets mentioned at random points in books and video games and stuff, but he doesn't seem to be a major player.
We'll fold him into the Morn and Wayun episode. Anyway, so yeah, Gamor needs a shot of painkillers, but turns down anything stronger so he can impart this valuable information to Kira. While he imparts this valuable information, Kira's mind wanders back to her dad again.
Yeah, she's recording it. She doesn't need to actually listen. It's fine.
That's true. Her dad talks about how he tried to reason with some Cardassians who were burning down their village, but they attacked him and burned his garden. Kira vows revenge and tries to find a medic to take care of her dad, but he doesn't want to be left alone.
We'll get them back for that garden.
That's right. We'll burn all their gardens.
I mean, like, they killed my mom at some point, but the garden, that's what we get them for.
Well, these specific ones, we're going to get them for the garden.
Yeah, right.
Back in the present, Gamora is asleep and mumbling about being cold, and Kira, just kind of stands over, staring at him. Later, Sisko looks at the intel and says that it's a promising start. But Kira gets a call to come back to Gamore's quarters, where Bashir says he stopped responding to his hexadrin therapy.
So apparently he was doing better for a minute.
Yeah, that hexadrin didn't seem to be doing anything. I don't know.
Maybe the hexadrin is like, it's one of those things like when you take, or when you get like chemo where it makes you worse. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the hexadrin making him not feel good before, and now we're stopping the hexadrin, and he's just like, it's the syndrome.
Yep.
Okay. But Gamora is eager to resume telling his secrets. Then a Dominion ship shows up at the station and locks weapons. Gul Dukat comes on screen and says, "Do you want to give us Gamora now?" And I assume after that they were like, do you want to come on the station and talk about this? It's like, are you going to come, like, aim weapons at us every time there's something you don't like?
When he first called, I was like, why are you even making this call? You can't imagine that Cisco's going to be like, oh, yeah, sure. Like,
right.
Why are we bothering? And then when he shows up by ship, I'm like, so really, you were just, like, tipping your hand?
Uh-huh.
Or did you do that specifically so that when you showed up, you could be like, well, did you consider my... Like, were you just setting up a dramatic moment? Was that all it was about? I don't know. It's weird.
Like, what are you going to do if he says no? Start a war?
Yeah. Like, this doesn't seem like a great plan.
Yeah. So, I imagine Cisco's like, what is this? Just come on and talk about it. So, yeah, Dukat comes aboard the station and introduces his advisor, Wei-Yun. Wait, aren't you that guy who got vaporized that time we teamed up with Jim Hadar?
I do like how Avery Brooks plays this, where he's just like, yeah, we've met.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't play surprised at all, at least right off the bat, but then he's like, I saw you die, and you get like a little bit of surprise. It's just like, Cisco is totally unruffled by the dead guy showing up again.
Yeah, well, so it was like, wait a second. I saw your, like, molecular structure be torn apart right in front of my eyes. But Wei-Yun's like, no, I'm a clone of that guy you saw get killed. So I can die and still be on the show.
Yep. And there's a quote in here from Ira Stephen Bear where he's like, look, when we first saw Jeff Combs do the role Into the Death, we were wishing we could find a different ending, because we really didn't want the character to die. But we couldn't think of anything. Next thing you know, they're out in Griffith Park shooting the fight, and he's dead. I knew immediately that he had to come back. There was no way he couldn't. So they invented this aspect of vorticulture specifically to get Jeffrey Combs back.
Yep. I would have never guessed. I mean, if you knew you didn't want him to die, couldn't you just, like, write him not dying? But
nope.
If you felt it was necessary for the story, okay. So anyway, they claim the Dominion courts have cleared Gamora of all charges, and he's welcome to come home and stop telling people all his secrets.
This is since Dukat called earlier, where he was like, he has a lot to answer for. And
right.
Now it's like, oh no, yeah, he's good.
It's like, we went ahead and had all those trials in the last, like, 6 hours, and yeah, he's fine. And
Wei-Yun is just like, oh yeah, Dominion courts are famous for how amazing they are.
Yeah.
For their equanimity and I forget what else it was.
So to entice him, Dukat says he can provide the whereabouts of Gamora's real daughter. But Gamora's like, well, even if that's true, which it clearly is not, I hate you and I super hate the Dominion.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, maybe you and me as Cardassians could have worked something out, but I'm super racist against the Dominion, so now you got this guy here.
Yeah.
But it's revealed in the novel Fearful Symmetry that Dukat did in fact know Ileana Gamora's location.
Ooh.
Meaning that his offer was at least partially honest. Given his treatment of her, however, it is doubtful that he would have followed through. Because, yeah, in the novel, it turns out that it's like they had Kira kidnapped, they had this person to look exactly like Kira, they were about to make the switch, and then Dukat goes in, he's like, no, hold on. Let's not do that. And so then he takes the fake Kira, Ileana, and he imprisons her for years and years, all alone, except when he shows up to torture and do worse things to her. So for, like, at least, like, a decade or something, it's pretty horrific. And so, yeah, he probably was not going to reveal that to this guy, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine he did that for just such an occasion.
Yeah, could be.
So, Wei-Yun points out that Dukat might need a public image makeover, which is probably true.
I love Wei-Yun's part in this episode. And I don't know if it's just that they hadn't decided exactly what they wanted the relationship to be like between Cardassia and the Dominion yet, or if they were playing it this way intentionally, because minor spoiler, like later, there's definitely a different dynamic between these two. But right now, Wei-Yun, he's supposedly an advisor, according to Dukat. He, other than this part about like we have to work on your image, he doesn't even he's not trying to tell Dukat what to do. He's not even really suggesting things. He's just there to like have a running commentary on what's going on, and it's kind of delightful.
And he just seems to be having a good time.
He is just enjoying the heck out of himself. And so I don't know if maybe it's like an intentional thing where we start out with Wei-Yun like observing and like understanding things before he gets more involved, or maybe, like I said, they just hadn't decided what to do with him exactly yet. But it's fun to watch him have fun doing this.
That's just another thing that it feels like some Avery Brooks direction, where he's just constantly got this like over the top, wide eyed, giddy smile.
Imagine if it was just like Wei-Yun's character moving forward is developed because you let Avery Brooks direct this one episode.
Get weird with it. So they'll be hanging around the station in case Gamor changes his mind. Then we get a montage of Kira taking care of Gamor and listening to his many secrets while she struggles to stay awake.
So there's a note about the montage sequence. It says, about the montage sequence, director Avery Brooks says, there's a suspension of time. Time is kind of irrelevant. Each shot was, for me, like a portrait. I was very interested in creating portraits in terms of composition and lighting. Still portraits. Not photographs, but paintings.
Huh. Yeah.
All right.
It wasn't a bad montage, I guess.
I mean, he put a lot of thought into it, apparently.
Yeah. Quark finds Kira hanging out on the balcony of the bar and offers her a drink and some mild sexual harassment.
Just a bit. Just to keep his hand in, as it were.
Yeah. Taking a break in her quarters, Kira gets a visit from Dukat, who is like, hey, you remember the massacre at the Kiasa Monastery? Well, for some reason I brought you Gamor's military record. I think you can see where I'm going with this. But Kira just throws a glass at Dukat's face and reiterates her long-standing vow of revenge against him.
I mean, yeah, she doesn't like you. So.
Which was probably my favorite moment of the episode, when Dukat got hit in the face with a flying glass.
Well, the thing is, yes, I mean, it's that there's good stuff in there, but like, he manages to be just so extra creepy, where she's like, oh, you get some like, you really like doing this, whatever. He's like,
yeah.
I do get a perverse pleasure.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, geez,
yeah.
dude.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, after he leaves, she picks up the pad and reads it. Next time she sees Gamor, she's decidedly less sympathetic. He freely admits he was at the Kiasa massacre and says he deeply regrets it and all the stuff he did when he was in the military. But Kira's just not having it.
Yeah, he's like, man, I wish I'd never even joined the military. It sucked.
Back at Quark's, Wei-Yun is having some good luck at Dabo. And then Sisko comes by to offer him and Dukat a drink of Kanar. No thanks, says Dukat, eyeing that bottle of Kanar. I don't drink Kanar on an empty stomach.
Sisko should have been like, oh, let's get some food over here. We'll make a whole party out of it.
Yeah, but Sisko's like, oh, does it have anything to do with the fact that this bottle of Kanar was sent to Gamor and is filled with, like, was it Viroxna poison?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Dukat pretends to be outraged by the insinuation, but Weyoun just grabs the glass of Kanar and chugs it. Vorda are immune to most kinds of poison, he explains.
So,
oh, no, wait, did you say Varaxna?
Yeah, that was the thing. I'd forgotten that they named the poison. In my head, Weyoun, it's just like, this is a super poison bottle, and Weyoun chugs it, and it's like, I'm immune to most kinds of poison. And it's like, but didn't you want to make sure that this was one of those kinds? But no, it's they do say it. So he's, I mean, I kind of assume that he helped pick out the poison in the first place or something.
Yeah, that's probably true. Although he seems kind of surprised by how much poison is in it. He's like, oh, geez, there is a lot of poison in there.
Yeah, I kind of assume that most of what Weyoun says in front of Cisco or the Federation people is like an intentional act in every way. Yeah. Although he is having a delightful time playing Dabo earlier in that scene.
Right.
Like, he is loving that. They love games. What can I say?
Well, he does. I don't think he says all Vorda love games, but Weyoun loves games anyway.
Right, I guess maybe the other Weyouns don't necessarily.
Coming out of the temple, Kira encounters Odo, who asks her about stopping visiting Gamor. He points out that Gamor was only 19 and was one of only 400 soldiers at the Kiasa massacre. He wonders if there's another reason she doesn't want to be with him, which sends Kira into another flashback of her dad, where he's in a lot of pain and says he can feel his pa slipping away. Pharrell runs in and says they found the soldiers who attacked him. Her father begs her not to go, but Kira grabs a gun and rushes out to get her revenge.
Yeah, you get him. Apparently, in one of these flashbacks, you can see a Bajoran holding a Jem'Hadar Kartakin, like the sword on stick things that the Jem'Hadar use. And this is, well before the discovery of the wormholes. So
I wonder how he got that.
I like these scenes with Odo. Like, this is not the first time that we've had this sort of Odo and Kira conversation where he's like pointing out stuff that she's trying to ignore, and then she's like, "Hey, are you trying to tell me to like do the what if I don't want to do that thing?" He's like, "No, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just like pointing out these things that you're intentionally ignoring." And she like is offended by this because it's like, I totally believe that he doesn't care one way or the other which thing she does, but he's just like, I want to point out that I recognize these things about your real motivations because I'm just bragging on how observant I am, really.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they always have that cool dynamic where they're kind of each other's talking each other down from craziness.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of person. So yeah, Bashir comes to Kira and tells her that Gamor has now less than an hour to live, but she still doesn't want to see him, which Bashir says is a mistake because nobody deserves to die alone.
Are you not going to be there, dude? Like,
well, I imagine that Bashir and Gamor don't have quite the same bond.
Well, that's true, but there's a difference between like someone you only kind of know but who's nice and being alone.
Well, Bashir's like, I can't really do it. I have to go play darts.
My schedule is just so full today.
I just got in the new James Bond ripoff Hollow thing, and I really don't want to be sitting with some dead guy when I could be doing that.
I'm going to steal O'Brien's girl again in the thing. It's going to be awesome.
I've found new ways to steal Falcon's girlfriend. But, yeah, that dying alone, that's the rub, as we see in our last flashback. Kira and Pharrell return to base from a successful raid on the Cardassians. Pharrell wants to celebrate, but Kira gets philosophical about the never-ending cycle of violence. But her attitude changes when she learns that her father died when she was out. Died calling her name. Kira immediately just wants to go out and kill more Cardassians.
More violence.
Yep. At sunset, she digs her father's grave on a lonely hillside. When Pharrell asks if they want to get someone to say a few words, she says, "There's nothing left to say." In the present, Kira goes to Gamor's bedside and is there for his last moments. Afterwards, she listens to Bashir give his post-mortem and is shocked by how simple and straightforward it is. She recalls listening to Gamor's breathing get more and more labored as he fought to stay alive. Bashir says she gave him what he needed, someone by his side. but she tells Bashir the story of her father's death and how she was afraid to be with him watching him die, which is the reason she really went out to go fight the Cardassians. But being with Gamor gave her a chance to do it right, as hard as it was. Dukat and Weyoun visit Captain Sisko and say that Gamor will be buried with full honors on Cardassia, having embraced the Dominion on his deathbed. The fact that that's not true is only a small problem, assures Weyoun.
Nobody actually cares if it's true or not.
Yeah. Nobody's really going to believe that, so... But Sisko says Gamor's burial has already been arranged. We cut to Kira standing over a fresh grave on what took me a long time to realize was supposed to be the same hillside where her father was buried.
Oh, really?
Well, I assume it was.
No, I mean, like, that always connected with me immediately, that she, like, buried him next to her father.
I mean, yeah. It's, like, so much grassier, and, well, it has grass, for one.
Yeah.
And, like, flowers all over the place. So I was like, wait, where is this? Is this, like, some monastery or something? At first I thought it was, like, the monastery where the massacre happened. And then I was like, oh, no, that's the... Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that they've got, like, the one grave marker right next to it already, and then the other one ready to go.
Well, I didn't realize that was supposed to be a grave marker. It was, like, this arch thing. And because, like... the fresh grave doesn't have one over it, but there's one over the side. Yeah, there's one to the side
that looks like, I guess, she's going to put over it. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was just some, generic Bajoran stuff, or I don't know.
Yeah, just generic Bajoran stuff, as happens.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's a much happier looking place now. The end.
Let's see. Random other notes. This is the first episode where Kira is shown wearing her normal uniform since she became pregnant. Oh. So it took a while to get back to that, I guess. The episode is a favorite of Nana visitors. She says, I like playing the truth of things. I love that they did this with my character, that they wrote that Kira isn't Miss Perfect Saint. It wasn't about her not loving the person she cared for. It was about this is tough, and it required more of her than she had at the moment, and it was learning experience. I don't think they ever played Kira as Miss Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, some good Nana visitor acting.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, when they really give her stuff that she can sink her teeth into, all the way back to season 1 with like duet and stuff, she really brings it when they give her the opportunity.
Yeah, which I feel like they kind of take advantage of a lot.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, we can give this. It's like give this to Kira or Chief O'Brien because they're the ones who are going to pull it off.
They do seem to get a lot of episodes that center on them.
Yeah. And it's always like this kind of like really heavy
emotion.
Stuff.
Yep. There's also a note here about Lawrence Pressman commenting on his image of Gamor. And he says, my original image of Gamor was one of the old military elite in Germany who loathed Hitler. They were certainly willing to fight the war, but they were unwilling to fight according to Hitler's plans. They were the guys who tried to kill him in the forest, including Rommel, who was implicated in that action.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that he has to throw out, like, also Rommel.
All right. Although I've heard some people say that like Rommel really wasn't that great. I have not read enough about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
A little tangent. I saw a movie recently called The Catcher Was a Spy.
Okay.
Starring Ant-Man. But it's based...
Nice.
So, okay, it's called The Catcher Was a Spy because it's about a baseball catcher during World War II who joined the OSS and became a spy.
Okay, I thought it was going to be like he was spying while being a catcher.
No,
like
I think he quit his
German spy.
He quit his catcher job and then went and got a spy job for the U.S. government.
Okay.
But one of his assignments, which the movie is about, was to assassinate Werner Heisenberg to keep the Germans from getting a bomb.
Makes sense.
And in the movie, he's I don't know, like just there's a lot of really my favorite parts of the movie were the parts where they're kind of like talking about Heisenberg, and it's like, how conflicted he must be. Like, he doesn't want to be a traitor, but also, and then at the end he meets Heisenberg, and Heisenberg's like, it's like, look, what do you want me to do? Betray my country? And I don't know. Spoiler alert, he did not assassinate Heisenberg. So,
oh, what a shame.
Yeah. He did not shrink down and go inside Heisenberg and then get big again.
He just didn't think of it yet.
He's like, oh, that's what I should have done. Yeah, so, yeah. I think that's kind of always interesting, like, being patriotic, but not in the way that, like, the powers that be
right
want you to be. So you want to go into reviews?
Sure.
Well, what do you think of the episode Ties of Blood and Water?
Well, we talked about already how, like, Nana Visitor just does a great job when they give her something like this to just really go after. And so that's good. I like that we're tying... We've got ties to the past and the ongoing story with, like, we bring Gamora back and we tie it into what's going on with the Dominion and Cardassia. I like that a lot, that we're moving the story along using stuff that we've already established.
Yeah.
That even includes Weyoun, I guess, who, you know, we love Jeffrey Combs.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong. I'm all on board with bringing Weyoun back.
Yep.
So there is lots of good stuff about this episode. It really doesn't give anyone else on the cast much to do. You know, Cisco gets like a moment. Dax and Worf get a moment.
Uh-huh.
I feel like when we ignore almost the entire cast, it always brings it down a little bit to me, even if the one person we're focusing on does really well. But you make up for that with like some of the Garrick stuff, or not Garrick, sorry, some of the Ducat stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's he's a fun bad guy to have around.
Sure.
And overall, I think pretty highly of this episode. I don't know that I feel we captured the exact same magic as Duet, which I think is what they're really going for here. It's like, can we harken back to like the best episode of season 1 with a pretty similar sort of story, except that, you know, it's a different angle on a relationship between Kira and a Cardassian. And there's something about like what this develops or continues to show us, at least about Kira, is that she's like this she makes decisions on emotion more than I think almost anyone else in the show. And that's not to say that she's not intelligent and can't think things through, because she can, but it's kind of like you go back to that episode where somebody was killing off her old friends, and like Pharrell and Lupiza, they're like, oh, we're gonna go and get him, and she's like, no, we have to be logical about this and deal with it. And then once they die, she immediately does a 180 because she just is so angry that she goes off and does exactly what she's telling them we shouldn't do.
Right.
So it's like logic immediately takes a back seat when emotion comes into play for her almost every time. And I think that may actually be the main thing that we've seen about Kira as a change from the beginning to this point, is that she's more willing to control her, or more able to control her emotions on average. But when they really come into play, they're still like taking over, which is what happens here, where she's basically making an excuse in her own head to get out of this thing. That she's using this strong emotional reaction, which, as Odo points out, is stronger than it reasonably should be. And he also points out, and I'd forgotten that he does it, because I was thinking it as we went through the episode. I'm like, did you really never look at his service record before? Did you honestly think that a guy who was high up in like Cardassian military command didn't do some terrible things during the occupation of Bajor? Because there's probably nobody who, like, from Cardassian high command during that period who didn't do some horrible things on Bajor.
Well, was he on the high command? I thought he was on the topic council.
He was an important guy.
Right.
Is I guess the main thing.
Yeah.
But but he was military. He was a legate, wasn't he?
Well, I thought legate was
Gamor,
like a government type position. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah,
anyway.
I guess the people on the high command are called legates. So, yeah.
Generally, though, like, I feel like it still applies. Like,
right.
You knew that he probably did some shady stuff during the occupation of Bajor. Like, there's no way that you didn't know that. You just didn't care or didn't want to look it up. So, like, it seems so weird to me that her reaction until Odo points that out. I'm like, yes, exactly. Thank you. So I think all of that rambling to say that it's really solid in a lot of ways. And I really like what they're doing with Kira's character here, but I don't think it's quite as strong for me as like Duet was. So I think I'm going to give it a commander.
All right. Yeah, the thing about Duet was that at that time, that was a really fresh...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'd never seen Kira, like, confront her feelings about Cardassians that head on before. Which, I think... And this episode kind of touches a lot of Kira threads, which is like her guilt over her past, and then, you know, her overcoming her hatred for Cardassians. And I just think we touch that so much with Kira that it has kind of diminishing returns.
Sure.
And also it feels a little bit like Kira must suffer.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, it's not nearly as bad as, you know, giving O'Brien a lifetime of imprisonment in his brain. But yeah, no, I get it.
But I mean, just the episode is so well done, and like it's just a really, like, if this was like, you know, if this had happened in season 1 or whatever, something like this, I mean, like I said, I feel like it would have way more impact.
Sure. For
me anyway. But I mean, it's such, like, it's a really well written story, and like the acting is from, or at least, you know, Nana Visitor is so on point. Mm-hmm. I mean, so it's just really hard for me. I mean, I am really happy to see Weyoun, even though there's absolutely no reason for him to be in the episode.
No, that's kind of true.
But yeah, I'm really torn. Like, I guess, I mean, the thing, like, I was like, you know, when I was first thinking about it, I was like, Commander seems right. But then I was like, but am I ever really going to want to watch this episode again? And so, I don't know. I think I will give it a Commander. But kind of like a participation award Commander, not like a personal like Commander. Because it's, I mean, another thing is just, I can't really find any real criticisms with the episode other than just kind of like the general Kira must suffer kind of feelings I got. And we've talked about, like, it's kind of no fun to see a really heavy episode.
Yeah.
A lot of times. Although this episode makes it pretty clear. Like, you know, the guy says he's dying. You can kind of see, like, okay, well, he's going to die by the end of the episode. And he didn't get turned into a weird Frankenstein or anything like Bareil. So.
True. I will say one positive thought I had during the episode in regards to that was, like, it gets really sad, especially when it's like he's going to die alone and she's refusing to see him, and you know that, you know, it's her personal issues, and I'm like, this is sad. But, like, I actually thought, I'm like, it doesn't reach that point that, like, Hard Time does when we talked about that episode, where I'm like, this doesn't get to the point where it's, like, so sad that it's unpleasant for me that I'm like, you've gone too far, Deep Space Nine. Like that with that episode, I'm just like, no, this is too far. Yeah. This was, like, right just far enough, I felt like, to be like, make me feel things, but not make me, like, viscerally not want to come back to this.
And I mean, like, you know, when I first watched the episode, I was like, I don't know. But then, you know, when I went back to skim through it to do my notes, I was like, man, there's just, like, a lot of this emotion really lands. Like, it's really well done. Like, all the stuff with, like, you know, it's weird at first when you don't understand why she doesn't want to, like, you know, listen to all this guy's secrets. But then when you get the flashback of her, you know, her guilt over her, you know, not being there when her dad died, and then having a really, like, sore nerve about that, so to speak, and then kind of getting over that to do the right thing, and it's, you know, painful but healing at the same time. Like, I don't know, it's just, you know, we don't usually get stories this, you know, character stories this good, even in Deep Space Nine. So,
right. Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, it's very emotional, but it grows the character in a way that doesn't feel like out of nowhere. It doesn't feel like detached from anything that's come before. It's growth that you're like, oh, that makes sense. And they wrote it really well into the episode. Once again, as opposed to something like Hard Time, where it's like, oh, this should be like super life-changing, but it came out of nowhere and then doesn't go anywhere eventually. So,
yeah, and that's just kind of the nature of the Kira character. Is like, she's always on this journey.
Yep.
So, how about title review?
I think the title works. It's, it's clearly you're going off of like the blood is thicker than water thing.
Sure.
And you've got these two major relationships that are mirroring each other. One of them is a blood relationship and one of them is not a blood relationship. So water in the metaphor. And you watch how they parallel in her life and the lessons she takes from one to the other. I actually think that it's fairly clever. I think that it's fitting for the episode. I think that it's a really solid title.
Yeah, that's a pretty good title. My only complaint is maybe it's a little clunky and maybe just blood and water might have been better.
Yeah, I can see that.
If I can go like Justin Timberlake in The Social Network, like it's cleaner. But maybe blood and water was already taken or something. And ties of blood and water makes total sense. So, and like I didn't, until you pointed that out with that note, like I didn't even make that connection of like what family means to Kira. Since she pretty much lost her whole family during the occupation, and she builds family through these like surrogate relationships, in one case literally. So
yeah.
It was pretty cool. A little thematic thing that I didn't notice at first, but my brain did.
Yeah, I almost feel like the writers didn't notice until you get into that moment, and it's like, oh wait, we have like these two. Oh, this could be like a Kira thing.
Yeah. Oh, it totally is a Kira thing. So
because it's like they made her pregnant just because it was like, well, the actress is pregnant, we have to do something, right?
Yep.
And then this guy was a one-off thing where and all of a sudden they bring them both back, and it's like, oh, we've created a theme in Kira's life without even realizing it. Okay.
Yeah. That's good writing. So let's see what else we got. You got any other stuff?
No.
Before you wrap it up? Well, so I guess we'll call it there. So yeah, thanks for joining us today. If you like this review, maybe listen to our review of that episode. What was it called?
Second Skin.
The previous one with Gamora in it.
No, I'm always like, wait a second. Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. I always confuse it with the one where Troy is a Romulan, and I always have to like double check.
That was Face of the Enemy, right?
That's Face of the Enemy. Yeah,
yeah. Two very similar episodes, but we have not reviewed Face of the Enemy, as far as I know.
Nope.
But yeah, you can find that review, all our past reviews, or future reviews if you're listening to this in the future, wherever you're listening to this. If you want to leave a comment, you can do that on the YouTube channel. It's not hard to find. Just search for Undeclared Bajor, or go to www.undeclaredbajor.com. That takes you straight to the YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I just paid the $15 renewal fee for
sweet
another year of that, so why not? But yeah, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you for our next discussion, but just remember, don't stand between me and the frosty Bajoran ale.
Ah, nice. Okay.